Hey, everybody, welcome to the episode number 17 of the Heart and Hustle podcast. Today, we're going to talk about a lot of things, changing, predicting human behavior, kind of some mentalist stuff going on, and a lot more activity from Miss Michaela talking this time.
You think so?
I know so.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll do something to make you talk. Hang on, let's roll the intro. 1 second. So the big question is this. How are leaders like you that recognize people and technology are the backbone of the company they're building continue to make progress when they have no clear idea on how to develop individuals and utilize technology in a way that helps them remain profitable? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. This is Tom and Michaela, and welcome to the Heart and Hustle podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to episode number 17 of the Heart and Hustle podcast. Here we are.
Ready to go.
You know, it's kind of funny. Episode 16, we kind of talked about these like 7 different episodes we're going to try and do over really the impact of HR and why HR gets no respect.
Yeah.
In today's marketplace.
Respect.
No respect.
No respect.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T. There you go. Good old Rodney Dangerfield, I think that movie was. Remember him? I Get No Respect.
Wow. That was like Aretha Franklin or something like that.
That was her song, but he was kind of cute on the...
You went with Rodney Dangerfield.
I love Rodney, yeah.
That's funny.
He was a good actor. But, you know, it was kind of funny. Yeah, I was trying to figure out, how do we talk about this first, episode, I guess, on why HR gets no respect. And before we even start, when I was a kid, maybe 17 years old, maybe 18, probably 16, 17, cars were the big thing in the late 80s. Everybody had to have their muscle car, their 67 Chevelle or their 70 GTO or whatever they had, and there was a kid, I can't remember his name, let's call him John Jones, doesn't matter. But, he pretended he knew about cars. He pretended that he knew, what this big block was or the small block Chevy or, putting things in his Chevelle to make things faster. His daddy built it, I think, for him. But then there was this other kid named Steve Mortensen. And he had this, I think it was a 67 Chevelle red, and it was just hot. I mean, the thing did not go over 65 miles an hour, but getting to 65, it was a literal rocket. It shot you back in the seat so hard, and you felt it. And when he got out of the car, he could tell you exactly the reasons it did that. Bigger cam, the engine. I think he had like ice blocks in the cooler, in the engine or something. He had some, I don't know, I don't remember. But this other kid named John Jones, he drove a freaking Toyota Corolla. But he talked about like he knew cars. He people thought he was the most knowledgeable kid ever, but you know what? He didn't know crap. He was kind of a poser, I guess, if you would. He kind of watched from the sidelines. He kind of read about the stuff. And I think that's kind of where HR is at today with a lot of these workers, where these HR professionals, they read about things online. They visit these blogs, they visit these areas, and they think they're professionals, and they think that they can speak to it. But in reality, they have no practitioner experience. They have no ability to really dive in and talk about or really kind of address those issues. I think they're posers.
Ouch.
I know. It's horrible.
The thing about that is I wouldn't completely disagree. I wouldn't completely disagree at all. I think HR is a field in which, in all reality, if HR practitioners were honest, they would say, what the bleep is going on right now.
They would.
I think the workforce is changing, economics are changing, business is changing, and if we're all really honest with each other, nobody really knows what's going on.
I think you're right. In my field, and I'm no expert in HR by any means. I'm just a lonely little IT dude.
The IT dude.
Yeah. But
Tom known as the IT dude.
But in the IT world, the CIO holds that role too, because most CIOs of every organization out there, every large ones, sorry if I'm offensive, but they're crap. They don't know. Most of these CIOs that are out there, they're really good people managers usually, and they're decently good at budgeting and so on and so forth, but they really suck at IT. They don't actually understand what it takes to be a good technician or a good engineer or a good architect or however you want to do it, but yet they're the ones leading the charge. And I feel that, some of the HR professionals today, not all, but some of them kind of grew up in a certain world, and now they are in that position where, they've never really had to manage people, but they're HR. You come out of school thinking, okay, I'm a new HR person, but you'd never managed anybody. You never had to kind of get in the trenches with those folks. You never had to deal with them on a one-to-one level. But now you're in HR and you're the de facto standard on teaching managers how to manage. You're teaching directors how to direct, and you're teaching leaders how to be leaders. And you're 23 years old. It's like having a 24-year-old business coach. Doesn't exist.
I think that happens. I think it does happen, but I think there are those HR practitioners that do have that management experience. I think the biggest issue now is that things are changing, and they're changing drastically. I read an article the other day that, the buzz right now is nobody wants to work. Well, is it true that nobody wants to work, or is the media perpetuating the fact that nobody wants to work, or
Right.
what's going on? I can see it both ways. I kind of feel the fact that, nobody really wants to work, and yet I know that there are people out there who really do want to work. So we are living in a very confused, muddled society, and that is not helping HR practitioners in any way, shape, or form be able to manage people inside of organizations that are barely hanging on, barely figuring out how to make their businesses work. And I think we're in complicated times. It's not easy.
No, it's not. And, when you go to school for something, you go to school to learn, about this or about X, Y, and Z. And if you apply this, then this may happen. Or if you do this, then this is the result. But really, I think HR is turning into, how do you predict, if that's a good word, and change, predict and change, Victoria, predict and change human behavior. And that's really what HR is today. And sorry for my fidgety thing. I have to play with something all the time.
Well, and that's, I think that's where HR is kind of getting a bad rap, I guess, is because...
Who's good at predicting? I mean, it's like Johnny Carson back in the 70s or 80s when he was a Karnak the Magnificent. He'd be on stage and he'd have the big old hat on, and ding, you kind of wish, but...
Striking air traffic controllers.
Striking air traffic controller.
You got it. What do the people waiting at the airport feel like doing?
It's like HR is really getting the point about predicting human behavior and change in that behavior for the growth of the company.
Yes.
And it's about people. It's about knowing and understanding people. And I'll go out on a limb here, but I think most, if not all, probably most behavioral health counselors, let's start there, that work with people would have a better understanding on how to run companies when it comes to people in HR than probably true HR professionals that went to quote unquote school for HR.
Maybe. I've been in this situation several times though, where I can tell you exactly, I think this is probably how this is going to play out based on the signs that I'm seeing. And 85% of the time I'm spot on.
You are spot on, but yet you're Delilah.
Delilah.
You're Delilah. You remember Delilah? We talked about this in the past. Delilah, and you're that gal that you understand people, and that's what I'm saying. You are more of.
But nobody wants to listen, and that is the problem with HR.
You are more of a behavioral health therapist, non-accredited by any means, by getting into that of people's heads and understanding with what they're saying and what they're actually meaning. Even though they say certain words, they mean something completely different. You do a very good job understanding that. A very good job. That's who makes you you. And that's why 85% of the time you're spot on. If all that you did was meet with people and went down the freaking check boxes and went against corporate policy, 85 to 90% of the time you would not be spot on.
Sure.
And that's why I say most behavioral health therapists, people that understand people, that they get people, they will do really good in HR, because at the end of the day, the entire HR field is changing about predicting human behavior, about how that person's going to react in that role and what they're going to do with that.
100%. But you have to have leadership on the other side who is willing to hear and listen and
right now, I think
understand those dynamics.
I think it's about maybe less than 10% of those folks. I think less than 10% of most CEOs today, probably a large swath of our customers and our clients that we deal with, maybe a little controversial here, but they don't get it. They really don't understand human behavior. They're looking at the black and white. They're looking at the check boxes.
They're looking at the numbers. They're looking at the bottom line. They're looking at, if I do this process, this is what's going to happen. And there's all that gray in between. And balancing the business aspect with the human aspect and combining those things to get to the point where each business wants to get is where HR comes into play.
Correct.
And either HR is put on the back burner and say, forget about it, we don't want to listen to you.
Which
we don't
happens
wanna
90% of the
hear
time.
what you have to say, or hey, what you got, let's listen, let's go this direction and see what you have to say. And that's a long, arduous process.
Let's pull the covers back a little bit. You worked for a decently sized county, maybe 160, 70 people ish. And, you were not in an appointed position, quote unquote, and you certainly were not in an elected position, but you ran HR for a very large organization in my world. And you were the department that had to handle those issues. How much respect did you get inside that organization amongst all the other 7 or 8 CEOs that ran their departments that were elected officials? How much respect did they give Miss Michaela over that position?
Very little.
Very little. Very little, if not any, or very little, a little bit because they're going to appease you.
A little bit because maybe they'll appease, but mostly no, not really.
Right.
The departments that were on board, but
And why were they on board?
They understood the mission and the concept and what HR was there to.
Again, why were they on board? Why were those individuals on board? Screw the whole concept and the mission.
They knew and they trusted me.
It had nothing to do with they knew and they trusted you. But those certain individuals also knew people.
Yes.
They understood people
100%.
as people and who they were, their hopes, their dreams, and their wishes, and so on and so forth. They weren't in it for the power. They weren't in it for the title, and they weren't in it for the election. They were in it because they truly believed in the people in which that they were working for, i.e., managers work for their employees. They got it.
Yeah.
And so at that point, they understood. But again, even with a team of 2, 3, 4, 5 of you, maybe.
That was way too many. How dare could HR have that many people in one department?
Well, not even that, but even though if those individuals had your back, one of our core values, but if those individuals had your back, they would get chastised.
Yeah. Because
they went against the grain. They went against of what, the ship was believing into, I guess, or what the company or what the organization should stand for.
Yes. But, that's government, and that's
it's not just government, though. It's every organization.
No, for sure.
I believe in which that does happen. And
I've experienced it since I've been with the county. I've experienced it in several different clients, even that we work with.
You're getting tense. You getting red? Hang on, let me see.
Am I?
You are.
No, I'm not.
Case in note, when she gets nervous, she gets red all through here. It's just really funny.
I'm not nervous, though.
Okay.
We're just being very vulnerable about the positions that we're in when it comes to HR.
Yeah.
And it's like we talked about, it's one of those undervalued positions that are super critical, but always in the background-ish. Maybe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. There's people will remain nameless for and throughout this podcast, not to incriminate those that we kind of snicker about at certain times. But, you know, we've seen so many issues with CEOs and organizations and kind of getting ready to let go or fire or, you know, terminate an employee. And they have such a big heart that they literally can't do it, to the point where one person was saying, hey, we fired Joe. I don't think that was his real name. We fired Joe. Let me set this up. Ring, ring. Hey, Mr. CEO, this is Tom. What's going on? Hey, Tom, this is Mr. CEO at Company X. We just fired Joe. Great. Do we need to deactivate his account? What do we need to do? Obviously, we do, but how would you like to proceed? Well, but we gave him 6 more months to work here to be able to help him find a new job.
It's true. It's happened.
So just to kind of do heads up, we probably want to audit him a little bit, but we did fire him, but we didn't really want to fire him because we kind of felt sorry for him, and we wanted to be able to give him a 6-month head start in finding a new job, but we basically fired him at a post date of 6 months to this day. So can you please mark your calendar accordingly? 6 months from today, please terminate his account.
It's happened.
It happens, and it happens more than once. And so what happens is you have these CEOs and these organizations that they struggle with it. They really, really struggle with, how do I let somebody go? Because they may truly care for the person as a person, but they understand the toxicity that person may cause, or the problems he or she may cause in the organization, that they have to let them go.
Hard conversations are hard to have.
They are.
I mean, we've dealt with it in our organization. You know, we've gone to fire someone, so to speak,
We have.
and sat down and had that conversation and realized.
Am I in the room for those?
Sometimes. Yes.
There's been a couple times, though, I think I wasn't in the room. I'm usually in the room for them, but
Sometimes you are, sometimes you're not.
yeah,
But
not good.
Oftentimes, you also recognize other things that are going on that might be impacting them,
Yeah.
and you step back a minute and say, hey, what's going on here? What's the big picture? What's the goal? And sometimes those plans change.
Yeah, you know, so you're absolutely correct. So, you know, I think number one is predicting and understanding human behavior and how that's going to change the organization. And I think it's very hard.
It's very hard.
And I think some of the people you hire today are not the best fit for those roles. You're hiring off of a gut feeling, which I hire 100% off of gut. What's my one? Have I ever told you?
What?
What's my one mechanism for hiring somebody? Besides having the name Aaron or Aaron. Plug, if your name is Aaron and you're watching this podcast, you're hired.
Oh my goodness.
Just shoot Michaela a message over Instagram, Facebook, wherever you can find her.
So what do you mean you're one?
I had this gut feeling of like, if I can sit down, and I don't drink beer by any means, a good margarita here and there, but if I can sit down and literally have a proverbial beer with this person and understand who they are, it goes so much further than a dumb automated AI resume type thing and figuring that person
well,
out.
that's two different extremes, because I totally don't believe in AI going through your resumes, but I also don't believe in that can I have a beer with this person methodology, because...
You know what I read the other day?
What?
Sorry, a squirrel. There she goes. I read this thing back in like 2018 or 17. Amazon had, and they have AI that kind of reads through all the CVs, all the resumes, and kind of go through all this stuff. And this female had something about being a chess captain on her team. She was a chess captain on her chess team. And her resume automatically got flagged and put at a lower score than everybody else for the sheer fact that she was a female chess captain.
Yeah, I mean, it's ripe for discriminatory.
But this was AI.
It's AI.
This was AI learning in the background, thinking, not being discriminatory. I mean, AI is not discriminatory. AI is learning about people that are hiring. They're the direct result. But say this AI engine's out there, Mr. AI engine. Oh my God, I'm dying here. Here we go. So Mr. AI Engine's in here doing her thing, you know, and she's like looking through all the resumes and everything else and reading and everything, and she's going off what people have hired in the past. Like, oh, did you hire this person? No. Well, maybe they never hired a female chess captain before.
That
And
doesn't mean
now,
they shouldn't.
but the logic is that, and you're right, they shouldn't. But in the past, the math says that they never hired a female chess captain. So therefore, should it get tagged at a lower score? The answer is no, obviously.
The answer is no.
And they should be smacked in the face or the nuts or whatever it is for even thinking of such a thing. But the reality is the robot is out there saying that based on past history, we've never done this or this has never been done, so therefore score lower.
That's
right?
the problem. Like, that's the number one, like, worst saying I hate of all time. We've never done it this way. No, you have never done it this way. And things change constantly. So you can't use that.
That's why. So how does a big company, say like an Amazon or a Google or, a Nelnet or whoever, they have a position open up and they have 500 applicants, maybe 1,000 applicants in the matter of 4 days. How do they weed through those resumes? Someone like me having a beer with that person, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. You have to have some basic things, but you can't throw out a resume because they were captain of the chess team. That doesn't make sense.
So at this point, having an AI, having robots read through resumes, trying to decide if people should be hired is a definite big buzzer. Bzz, no.
For me at this point, yes, unless I can see specifically what they're reasoning and how they're weeding things out. But based on what you're telling me and them weeding things out for a female being on a chess team seems completely discriminatory. It shouldn't have anything to do that. If we want to talk about whether or not they have a bachelor's degree versus a master's degree, depending on the requirements
Right.
for that position. If we want to talk about 2 years of experience versus 0 experience, we can talk about those things.
Got it.
Your debt is 7,000 Fed credits. Report to the Ministry of Employment and you will be assigned a function.
Honey, I got a job!
You know how I'd apply for a job today?
How?
Here's my secret. Here's what I would do. If I was applying for president, chief information officer, whatever it was, some senior level exec position in a very large company, say in San Francisco, or where do you want to move to? Aspen? We were just in Aspen the other day in Snowmass at Sundeck. Oh, that Sundeck episode. Oh, that was nice. You remember lunch out there?
Yeah, it was
You had a veggie burger?
gorgeous. Yeah.
It was crap. So anyways, I would literally write my resume, write whatever it is. It doesn't really matter at that point in time. Submit my job app to the point that it would get noticed. I'd make sure that it was noticed. Now that's a whole nother deal on how that gets
Whole nother
noticed.
episode. Yes.
But I would make sure it got noticed. And then I would then take out Facebook and probably Instagram ads, maybe some Twitter, probably a little bit of Spotify, and target the leadership and the senior execs of those companies over my skill sets on top of the HR staff that was there. And then I would totally figure out how to make sure that on the fringes that I kept pumping information about me, because it's kind of like that whole car thing. What's it called? Like when
The red car theory?
Yeah, the red car theory. Like, if all of a sudden you're driving a Grandma Blue Fusion around and you she had one, it was crap.
I hated that Grandma Blue Fusion.
And you're driving around the road and all of a sudden everybody has Grandma Blue Fusions, you're going to see it.
Yes.
So therefore, you submit your resume in, you spend the $100 or your 7 coffees or whatever you're going to get, and you start targeting the people that are going to actually be reading your resumes, and they're going to start showing up in your feeds. Like, my God, who is this guy? And who is this guy? Why are they here? And you're going to start getting noticed a little bit easier.
Most people wouldn't go to those extremes.
I did it for a
They
client
don't
though.
think that.
I did it for that big county again.
I know you
I did it. I said, hey, we'll work with you, wink, wink. And I targeted all the leadership and all the people there, and it started showing up in their Facebook feeds everywhere. And a few weeks later, we're hired.
I don't think that had anything to do with it, but
This is my movie star eyes, wasn't it?
yeah, your movie star eyes. That was it.
There you go.
Okay.
Anyways,
So, is that a wrap?
it could be wrapped. So
We kind of we're all over the place.
we're all over the place. But
Bottom line.
the reality is, first, the first thing is change and predict human behavior. And that is number one. And that is the number one reason right now where I think HR can show its value inside of companies. And those experts can help change and predict human behavior on how it works today.
Yeah.
Not crossing off the boxes, not knowing a policy, not having the ability to, regurgitate, hate that word. I think I heard that in 6th grade the first time, but it's about knowing people and understanding those folks.
And that takes time. Like from my perspective on my end, when I work with clients, it takes time for me to get to know those clients. It takes time to get to know how they think and how they operate. And it takes involvement in those decisions and how to hire the right fit, how to hire for culture, how to hire for all of those things.
It's scary.
It's time consuming, and it's an investment, and it's one of those things that you can't necessarily see automatic direct results from in black and white numbers right off the bat.
Right.
It's really something that you have to kind of massage for a while.
It is. Understanding how people think, knowing how they think, and be able to anticipate what they think and how they're going to act. If you can do that, you're probably going to be pretty darn good in HR.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be a psycho murder killer, like off Blacklist.
Okay.
Love that movie or show.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in another episode.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Please comment below, do something, kind of engage with us a little bit and see how we'll definitely respond and be in touch. So thanks for all the comments. Outside that, catch you later. Bye.